Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Human Relations Board. I'm Kathy Zunda Wilson, Chair for this group. And I would like to call us to order right now. And we will start with roll call. Alicia?
Chris Lucier.
Oh,
Second,
Here.
right now. Okay, Chris Lucier, thank you, Chris. Derek Freeman. Noted is absent.
Oh, it says he's waiting in the waiting room.
Oh.
So
Derek, are you available?
he just was put in, so.
We'll give him a minute.
Yep.
Miss Austin,
Yeah, I don't see her up there.
noted is absent. Mr.
Yep.
Cotton,
Nope.
absent. Jennifer Greger,
I do not see her.
Kathy Zunda Wilson,
Present.
Mr. Woodward,
Present.
Keona Ackley,
Keona Ackley here, joining remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan, and I do see Derek is on.
yep, I'll come back to him. Thank you so much. Dina Spencer,
Yes, present. That's okay, just snuck in.
Esther Hooper,
Present.
Whitney Wardell,
Present remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
thank you. Leanne Wesley
Present remotely as well,
from Battle Creek as well,
from Battle Creek, Michigan, yes.
thank you. Monica Hearing,
Present.
thank you. And coming back to
Derek.
Derek Freeman,
Present, joining remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
thank you, sir.
Did you get Whitney?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. All right. Okay, thank you everyone for being here.
Kathy,
Yes,
can you hear me?
I can.
This is Rebecca. I'm having all kinds of issues, but Alicia, since I am now the ex officio as appointed by the commission, you need to include me in roll call, please.
Absolutely. Rebecca Fleury,
And I am remote from Battle Creek.
thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Rebecca, can you give us any insight on if Commissioner Ballard is also ex officio?
He and I represent the two ex officio positions as defined in the bylaws and
Excellent.
approved by the commission.
Perfect. And so I'll report Mr. Ballard is absent currently.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, Kim. And thank you very much, everyone, for being here, either virtually or in person. This hybrid, we're making it work. So I'm really appreciative of all of your efforts to make sure that you're present in any way that you can be. You should have received the minutes from January 25th, the meeting that feels like was just yesterday. And if I could ask for a motion.
I moved the minutes to be approved.
All right. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Are we good,
Yep,
Alicia?
we've got everyone. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Do we have any communications, Alicia?
We do not.
All right, committee reports?
Fair enough.
Okay. Paul, would you like to give folks an update on our progress with the CRB efforts? Thank you.
So last week, the subcommittee who was investigating the proposal to go to the commission for the adoption of whatever for Battle Creek to include a provision or an ordinance on the city charter for the existence of a citizen review board met.
Mhm.
And we met for 2 hours last week, went through what processes need to occur this year to begin the process of Battle Creek Commission taking on just the structure. And so we spent a lot of time looking at that, what we've got, and also with the plan moving forward. This afternoon, myself and Kathy met, and we've developed a skeleton of a framework that we're going to put together and meet up over the next month, so that at the March meeting of this board, we will have a document to discuss. That document being a draft document that would be something that we present to the commission that is including the recommendations of this board for the formation of a citizen review board for Battle Creek.
Thank you. And just for those of you who weren't here, part of the work group, the idea is that we've been invited to suggest or propose a commission workshop that would be focused on that, and that this document would be the precursor to that. So it would help us understand what the scope of it is that we're looking at, what some of the details are of what we learned through the survey, and what's our due diligence and a historical timeline of how we've gotten to where we are right now. So all of that information will be in front of you for the March meeting, and we look forward to your feedback on that once you receive it, so that we can then work with Rebecca and her team and Chief Bagley about what the next steps will be internally around that. So thank you. Thank you to everybody who participated in that and who has contributed so far. That's a really important body of work. And as Chris has reminded us, this is not a small, insignificant action of this board. It is significant, and it does merit our time, attention, and patience. So this isn't going to be something that's going to happen immediately. This is going to be something we want to really take our time with so that it's done carefully. And I will be reconnecting with Kerry Whitfield with the NAACP to let him know where things stand, because he has asked, he's reached out and requested an update. So I'll make sure I do that.
Kathy, if I might add,
Yes, please.
sorry, I don't know what's going on with the camera, so you just see my name, but Chief Bagley and I and several commissioners and Kim, we attended kind of a community conversation at St. Mark's Church in regards to a citizens review board and some other things. So please know that that group came away with the tasks to be completed by April. And while we couldn't promise creation of a citizen review board by April, we did promise to have the first workshop with the commission then. So we will have, I don't know which meeting in April it will be at, but we will have a commission workshop on a citizens review board in April.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Is there any way that, I'm just curious, was anybody in the work group from the HRB present there, aside from you and Chief, and aside from staff?
Since I don't have the work group list in front of me, I can't speak to that.
But you didn't recognize any HRB members in the audience that were there?
I was present.
You were there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
Which St. Mark's is that? Which St. Mark's church?
Pastor
is it?
Bell,
Okay,
Yeah, Illinois.
okay.
thank you, Pastor Hooper. Sorry, there were so many people there and there was a lot going on, so I apologize. I didn't recognize that.
oh,
That'd have been interesting.
I would have been, yeah. I just wonder how we tighten up communication around that so that folks can be present if they choose to be. So I realize that it wasn't yours to extend the invitations, but I hope that we can get better at communicating some of those opportunities to engage with the community, because I think it'd be helpful. So if we're able to see some of the key takeaways from that, oh, we can see you now, Rebecca. It would be great to know what they came up with, to make sure that it's aligned, or if there's other people from that group that we need to be connecting with, that would be helpful.
I think it was more in connection with the response to the video that came out from Memphis. So that, I think that was one of the target
Okay, could you
reasons.
speak up so folks can hear you? Sorry.
Yeah, that was one of the target reasons for holding the meeting, was the video had came out. And so the Battle Creek community, some of the pastors wanted to get a little focus on it as far as the citizens are concerned.
Okay.
And Chief
Thank you,
Bagley-
Pastor Hooper. Yep, I did not get a chance, but yes, I didn't get a chance to finish. That's exactly what prompted the conversation. Chief Bagley had requested a convening with some of the pastors and the chaplains from the Battle Creek Police Department as well as the fire department. That was the premise for the discussion, but as part of the organic discussion, that came up.
That's
The
helpful.
Citizens Review Board came up. So I apologize, I wasn't clear about that. Again, I'm struggling with my technology right now.
Chris,
Is
yeah.
is it possible maybe to connect with some of the folks from that group that wanted to see that as an outcome, or something that gets discussed in front of the city commission? Because we are, I think we've been less married to what is Citizens Review Board look like, and much more sort of looking at how does one get developed and ensuring that it's something that responds adequately to the community's needs.
Yes.
And so, having gathered a lot of like data and input that we've processed, that group could help us process that information or provide insight into that or add to it.
For sure.
Also, they could help provide direction in terms of what were some of the key components coming out of those conversations where people are probably intensely sort of thinking about this issue.
Yeah,
And then we may be able to help because we've done a lot of that research and process, sort of gathered stuff. We maybe have some things that could share with them that may help them sort of figure out, where they'd like to go with that. I don't know.
and this is more evidence of support, right? Chief, yes.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. Yeah, we're working on some actionable items. Pastor Bell is kind of compiling those. I'm sorry, I don't have the date set in front of me, but there is another date set to reconvene with that group in April, I believe. I will make sure to get that date to the board here so that you guys can participate. That fits on your schedule, and we can have that information and have those conversations moving forward.
So I don't know that I would want to participate in another effort to do this. I think as a board member, I have a task in front of me to contribute to this board considering a proposal and being able to put something in front of the city commission.
Right.
I think I'm more looking for a way to connect so that we
Yes.
don't have two completely separate
Going
things
parallel.
happening. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. If I may just interject. So the conversation centered around, as Pastor Hooper mentioned just a moment ago, this was in a kind of a result to how the incident in Memphis had impact here locally. And it really came out of a conversation that I had with our chaplain, Dr. Bell, kind of Saturday morning after the release of the video that the previous Friday. And it kind of got thrown together very quickly and organically. And it was just getting a group of as many community stakeholders as we could on such short notice, just to have a discussion. And a part of that discussion, out of that arose a conversation related to the CRB. So there was, as city manager stated, there was conversation about the CRB and the timeline in which was kind of for a workshop for the city commission to happen within, I think, by April. So, and that's where it was left. It was very organic, very, very raw, and just a conversation of kind of how that impacted the community. So there's some actionables that were being put together, more to kind of help drive the next meeting. But there was nothing etched in stone, more so the conversation.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as a feedback loop for us. And if there's a way for us to see the notes or what the actions are, we could look at where there's some alignment and we can connect offline about how it can be supportive, or at least help us have another, it's growing momentum for those who might be interested. And it's more, I think, evidence for us. But I do think we want to make sure that we're not creating parallel paths for the same outcome. Like, how do we actually get us connected?
Certainly. And like I said, I'd be more than happy to,
Yep.
once I get those notes compiled, I can make those available. And I think that would be very appropriate. So.
Chris?
For example, Kathy.
Yeah.
Like, does that change or what our responsibility is in terms of putting together a workshop for
Yeah,
the city commission?
yeah,
Because if there's another group and there isn't a way to sort of incorporate that in, then is that two different, does that change the nature of the workshop? And our
yeah.
responsibility?
I think I
Well,
want to,
If
Go
I
on.
could add, and Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the majority of the voices in regards to the Citizen Review Board at that conversation were Carrie and groups that had already been working on it. So I don't want to necessarily, tell me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I think that discussion was very centered around the NAACP proposal. So I don't see this as duplicate. I
okay,
see that lifted up and a desire to continue the conversation with the commission, because there were several commissioners there, Commissioner Reynolds, Commissioner Morris, Mayor Benke, and they certainly did hear that, sooner rather than later, we need to start the conversation with the commission, because ultimately it will be their decision as to if it's created, then what does it look like, its authority and direction?
No,
So-
that's
Is
spot
that
on.
fair? Okay.
That is absolutely fair, spot on, yeah.
And Rebecca, did you share with them the progress that we're making as an HRB in that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Okay.
and it, like I said, I don't think that this is, parallel conversations. I think they're the same because of Carrie leading kind of that part of the discussion at St. Mark's. And yes, absolutely, both the chief and I mentioned that the Human Relations Board had a subcommittee working on this, and that, potentially there could be three, things for the commission to consider: recommendations from the Human Relations Board, recommendations from the NAACP, recommendations from Chief Bagley and myself, all of those to inform the commission and get direction.
Okay. Thank you.
There definitely needs to be some communication between the HRB and Carrie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll follow up with Carrie. That'll be my action item as well. So give him an update on our status, how much progress we've made, et cetera. And a request that he keep us in the loop around the things that he's doing now that he's been present at both a commission meeting as well as a community meeting where he's talking about this. It'd be really helpful to get on the same page around those things. All right. Other thoughts or comments before we move on? I'm going to try and pay attention to those of you who are here virtually, but if I don't call on you because you have your hand up or something, please just unmute and make yourself heard so that we make sure we don't miss you.
I guess I do have a question. I'm just sitting here thinking, so if this has become our task, set the workshop, to do the subcommittee, what becomes Carrie's role?
Well, I think what I'm hearing Rebecca say is that there could be multiple recommendations that the commission has to look at. If Carrie chooses to go forward with the proposal as written, I don't think there's anything that can stop him from doing that.
Okay.
We've given him plenty of feedback from us about what we would like to see. Not change necessarily, but that our feedback as to what it would mean to actually update his proposal, and that hasn't happened. We have no jurisdiction, if you will, over telling him that he can't go forward with that.
So there then could potentially be his ideas and his version.
Yep.
And then another one. And then another one.
But
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
ours is going to be, I think, inclusive of what we learned from NAACP. It's part of the historical timeline of what the HRB has done, including the request from the city staff for us to look at this. So I think that the commission overall in that workshop, the workshop is going to be Rebecca's to coordinate and to organize and to lead. We will just be contributing some information and maybe providing some support there.
Okay.
Yeah. And is that correct, Rebecca?
Understanding.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, now on to our new business, and this is going to be the bulk of our time together today. And I want to thank Jason Francisco as well as the rest of the team. Thank you for being here. We're going to turn it over to you to do a presentation on code. And for those of you who are new, I don't know that we have anybody here that's new, but just where this came from is that we have been over the course of the last 18 months or so, really talking about what are the things we're hearing in community that we want to understand more so that we could be better liaisons between the city and the community. And one of the things that continually kept coming up is this understanding, a better understanding of what code is, what they do, how they operate. And so I want to thank them for putting this together so that we have a better sense and we could be better advocates and better liaisons of that information when we're interacting with the public and with the people who live here. So Jason, like to introduce yourself and go from here?
Real quick, just as
Yes.
a better logistics, I'm gonna take the screen, the Zoom screen and put it on my screen so I can see if people have questions and I'll just
Okay,
let you
perfect.
know. And then because the presentation is gonna be on the screen.
Okay,
and we
perfect.
wouldn't be able to see.
All right, thank you.
So give me 1 second to just do that real quick.
I'm gonna move that chair. Oh, thank you, Jason. You're good.
No.
Trying to figure out.
You're good, and I will turn my chair if I need to.
Don't put bunny ears behind.
Mhm.
Yes, please.
Alicia, did you need to call Jeff in for roll call if Jeff
Oh,
wasn't here?
yes, Jeff,
Okay.
Jeff joined us. Jeff, you could just verbally acknowledge that you joined us at 4:08.
Jeff Cotton. Got
Thank
here
you.
at 4:08.
I wanted to make sure that the minutes reflected that you were here. It's a long day, Chris.
Navigating technology.
I just want to say thanks to the group for inviting us, both myself, Jason Francisco, Code Compliance Manager, and Marcy Gillette, our Community Services Director, to come and speak with you today. I know we often hear from the community, what is code compliance? You know, I think they do this, I think they do that. So it gives us a good opportunity to get in front of you guys and clear some things up or answer some questions. So all right, let's start off by talking about what is code compliance. We have 5 code compliance officials. Code compliance officials are responsible for enforcing the property maintenance code that applies to all commercial and residential parcels. This also includes any vacant lot parcels. We can continue to look at neighborhood conditions and other health indicators to make sure that our efforts are intentional and impactful. You know, what areas that need the help? What areas do we need to focus to bring that neighborhood back up? You know, as we know, the city of Battle Creek is the 4th largest in the state. I mean, we encompass almost 44 square miles, which includes 17,000 residential parcels and also 4,000 commercial parcels. These parcels are broken up by neighborhood planning councils. Hopefully, everyone knows after all of the years that we put into neighborhood planning councils, where all those districts are too, but we've got some maps too that we can share. I want to be clear that we're here talking today about code compliance. You know, just a lot of times when people refer to code compliance, it's everything is code compliance. You know, inspections is part of code compliance. Everything the city does is all the same. So there's code compliance that deals with property maintenance code issues, rental properties, junk vehicles, conditions of the properties. There's also the inspections division, which while it is in our community services realm, it's actually plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and building state codes. So we're here about code compliance and not about the inspections division. So we use code enforcement as a strategic and critical element to fight neighborhood decline, preserve neighborhoods, and restore the distressed areas. So then we're taking a look at the impact on junk and trash, the impact on abandoned vehicles, abandoned properties. What can we do to make these neighborhoods more stable and more desirable for the community? Code officials are helping to protect renters and low-income homeowners and increase and strengthen the community neighborhoods. We strengthen and stabilize property values by enforcing the minimum housing code. You know, this is a way that we can take a look at these houses and get in front of them and write up some violations to make sure that all of the houses across the board meet those minimum qualifications. That way, we're not allowing neighborhoods to dip down and not have desirable neighborhoods throughout the city. Our goal is to redefine code compliance. We're going to move from a reactive, punitive function to a more proactive. You know, how do we get that house that's on the street that everyone knows it's looked bad or has had issues? You know, you drive by it every single day. You know, how can we help that person to get their house back up so it's not the eyesore that it is, or doesn't have the issues that it has? You know, something as simple as a few years ago, we made some changes to our notices where we would send out a notice and we'd give a property owner 30 days to come into compliance. Sometimes 30 days isn't enough. You know, we all know that we're busy. You know, Chris is going from meeting to meeting to meeting. You know, we've got kids, we've got a lot of other commitments that 30 days just isn't enough. So it makes more sense that rather than having all of these individuals that need more time come in front of the schools board, that they, you know what, maybe these notices can be 60-day notices. Let's see where we're at in 60 days. You know, we're in a different world right now due to the last few years with COVID. You know, COVID has made it difficult for a lot of people, and that is having face-to-face meetings, getting supplies, trying to find a contractor that can work. You know, it's been tough to not only, yeah, I want to fix it. I want to make the repairs. I want to do the roof. How difficult, if anybody's had any home improvement projects, how difficult is it to find building project or building materials? Yeah, we can find them maybe, but they're 4 times as what they were just a few years ago.
Jason, can I ask a question? Do you want questions at the end or would you like it as you
Makes
go?
No difference.
So I have a question. Did you have a question as well, Nika? Okay, it says you're moving from a reactive punitive function to a proactive one. Where would you say you are in that continuum?
So we, of course, we always take complaints, you know, we are reactive to any complaint that we take in. You know, you look at someone that calls in and we often use the term 123 Main Street just as a generic property. So, you know, we get a call about some issues at 123 Main Street. You know, you go there, you write up the notice. Well, it doesn't make sense that you go out to 123 Main Street and you don't look at the 3-4 houses right around here. So not only are we addressing that reaction of someone's complaint, it's looking at the other properties around too. And that's, well, as we'll talk a little bit later, and that's one of the reasons that we do property surveys, to make sure that we're focusing on every single property. You know, we hit all 17,000 properties every 3 years. We do a third of the city every single year.
So then the decisions to go from like a 30-day period for the notices to 60, is that something that's done at a department level or does that require? Like, you get to make those decisions about that? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, like, I'm trying to see like where there are opportunities where like, are there ordinances that have to change or are there things that you have control over within the department?
Stuff that we're looking to make sure that we can get from start to finish. How helpful can we be to the homeowner? What kind of programs can we assist to, you know, you address an issue. It's difficult to come up with $20,000 for a new roof. You know,
Yeah.
I understand that roofs are expensive, but if we don't address the roof, then we're gonna start taking water inside. How much more damage? You know, Chris has got is a great program right now through Minor Home Repair that they're looking for roofs, trying to specialize in roofs. So, you know, we have these assistance avenues that are kind of underutilized that, you know, we would like to get more in front. And we'll talk about even the paint program that we
Okay.
had a few years ago too. Anything and everything we can do to help a resident get from, yes, I got the shock of got a notice to now I'm in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Talk a little bit about staff, you know, we're 44 square miles, we've got 21,000 parcels in the city. We've got 1 code compliance manager and only 5 code compliance officials. So if you do the math, there is no shortage of work. We do have 3 permit technicians. These are customer service rep permit techs downstairs that work the office that is shared between the inspections department. So we do share those 3. As you can see, here's our 5 code compliance officials. A few years ago, we were asked to kind of help out with some zoning enforcements. So our most senior code compliance officials have a hybrid title of code compliance and zoning officials. As our newest code official has been with us for just a few months. We also have like to bring on a seasonal weed inspector. That's been a difficult position to fill over the last couple of years. So code staff has even taken on the additional responsibilities of any of those neighborhood lawns that continue to get over 9 inches that aren't being mowed. So here there are the neighborhood planning councils that are broken up. All of the neighborhood planning councils are split between Tom and Eric for zoning, but 1 in 9, the post rural Southwest, Tom has. Yolanda has Washington Heights and Mingus Brook. Kim is the Wilson Coburn NPC3 neighborhood. Eric is right up here in the Fremont Kinley neighborhood. Eric helps us in Urbandale and Westlake, the numbered streets over in NPC 10.
Hi, this is Kiona. I'm not sure if you guys are looking at a presentation or anything, but it's not being shared for us to see it
Oh.
virtually.
Oh, thank you for letting us know, Kiona.
Kiona, sorry about that.
We're gonna try and fix that right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting us know.
like we discussed previously, some areas of focus that code compliance officials work on is property maintenance code. You know, we all know that exterior property conditions, rental housing, this is an opportunity that we get a chance to do interior and exterior rental inspections on any property that is not owner occupied within the city of Battle Creek. Those are the properties, once they are permitted and issued, have a 3 and 6 year cycle. And when those rental permits expire, the newly adopted a year and a half ago for the hotel motel. You know, we heard a lot about people would come to the community and, you know, they would stay in some hotels. Some great, some not so great, you know, and we knew that we weren't getting a chance to run through and do inspections on hotels. And that's the last thing we want is someone coming to our community from out of state that stays in, you know, they don't know where they're gonna stay, so I'm gonna stay in hotel ABC. And all of a sudden they've had a terrible experience and they leave, and now this is what Battle Creek is there a terrible experience in their hotel when they've been here for 1 or 2 days. Chapter 1456, the vacant or abandoned structures. This is any structure, any residential structure that has been vacant for more than 60 days. It has one sort of qualifier, such as property has exterior violations, property that has long grass, boarded windows, no utilities, no heating source. So this isn't necessarily focusing on a house that's vacant when the owner goes to Florida and doesn't have any issues. This is a focus on a house that's been empty for more than 60 days and has other exterior violations. That exterior violations in chapter 1456 revokes the certificate of occupancy or suspends the certificate of occupancy. The way to get that back so it can be utilized again is either through a property maintenance code inspection or through a safety inspection. The safety inspections are done by our trade inspectors. Those are for any properties that we know that have been vacant or abandoned for more than 2 years. Anything that's been under 2 years, you know, maybe it's only been 6 months, it's been on the market. Anything under 2 years, property maintenance code inspections are done by our code officials. Exact mirror of a rental inspection to get that occupancy permit restored.
Jason, I'm sorry, I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, please.
This is Whitney Wardell. I have a question in regards to the hotel motel ordinance. I just wanted to understand what is the city's take on the hotel motel ordinance and the number of individuals that we have living in hotel or motels right now due to the big solar panel project that's going on. Is the city still enforcing that ordinance?
I don't know much about the solar panel project.
Yeah, hi, this is Marcy. I also, we do not have numbers, not only for individuals who are living in hotel motels for permanent residency. Those numbers are always a moving target and not something that is reported. We also do not have numbers in regards to individuals who are living in hotels and motels for purposes of work. Certainly you had mentioned this particular project with the solar project, but we also have other companies in the area that bring people in from like Denso or special projects that also use hotels and motels in the region to live in. With regard to hotels and motels, there is language that allows for a hotel property owner to have a contract with a corporation to be able to allow for long-term stay for a specific project period of time. So that is something that is written into the ordinance, but to know and understand what those numbers are, that is not something from our understanding that any one entity is collecting data on.
Okay, thank you for that, Marcy. And it's kind of like a two-part question. Are there any updates in regards to the communal kitchen project with some of those hotels?
Yeah, we're super excited that project is moving forward with that was one of the projects that was funded by ARPA. And so currently we have policies and procedures and all of the logistics that are being reviewed by legal. Those are written. Once those are put into place, what we will be able to do as a next step is to meet with the property owners in the community. And again, as a reminder, we have 14 in the city of Battle Creek. We'll be able to meet with them and talk about what the opportunity is to be able to do this program and offer those amenities to the community. Once we launch the program, it can be pretty immediate for hotel and motel owners to invest in their properties, to build out communal kitchens. And what I would anticipate, because the build out of a communal kitchen is pretty minimal in regards to the amount of construction time that it takes, as long as building materials are available and contractors can be available. I would anticipate that certainly within a trade permit application, which is valid for 6 months, that we would see some of those become online and be completed. What we don't know right now is certainly how many properties may have an interest in doing that investment. And then certainly for those who do decide to invest in doing communal kitchens, the other factor that we won't know as of yet is how many kitchens, how many units are they willing to convert to a communal kitchen to be able to serve. We have estimated the amount that has been allocated for this project, that if we maximized the allowability at each of the properties, we certainly could serve far more than we anticipate as a need for those who are using hotels and motels as permanent occupancy.
What's that total allocation amount?
I believe that was $750. That was approved by commission.
Is there still a committee for the communal kitchen project?
What we have done in the past is we have pulled together certainly property owners for some discussions. And we've also, as you're aware, we have brought together some service providers and also local agencies that that place individuals that they are serving in hotels and motels. So that is a conversation. We just have not had updates because we've been working on the logistics of the programming. But as we roll that out, we want to make sure that not only the hotel motel owners understand the components of the programming, but also that the social service agencies understand what that means, because there will come a point that once we launch the program, hotel motel owners will then let us know if they would like to participate or not. If they choose to participate, they will be allowed to continue long-term stay occupancy as they work towards building those amenities. But for hotels or motels that choose not to participate, there will be a window of time where they will have to halt long-term stay occupancy if they do not have amenities.
And I think it's important for folks to know why that even happened, and that there were dangerous living conditions for people who were placed in these spaces because they were creating makeshift kitchens in the rooms, correct? That was part of
Yes.
it, is that they were using hot plates and other things.
Yeah, and the properties are not constructed for the load needed to really serve a family and those types of items. So it really poses a risk of fire
Mhm.
from an electrical standpoint and those types of factors.
So my question is, when we get to this point, will there be any leniency on like the fines and fees? Because at that point where they decide, hey, we're gonna decide not to do the communal kitchen, we're gonna have a lot of homeless people.
Yeah,
And our
and
numbers are gonna skyrocket, and we already have a housing situation.
Mhm. So what we anticipate, just like we did with the initial adoption, is we will have sort of a administrative grace period that we build in. On the front end, when the ordinance was first adopted, that was a 1-year window of time. And we felt like that 1 year was an appropriate amount of time for hotel motel owners to either invest, or for individuals who are using hotels and motels as permanent occupancy to be able to seek other housing options, because we recognize it's not something that you can easily do within a couple of weeks, right? That there are certainly a variety of different types of barriers to housing that people face. Some are easier to work through than others. And so what I would anticipate is once we launch the program, that there would also be that window of time that we would establish administratively to allow property or allow occupants who are using it for long-term stay, if the hotel is choosing to not invest. Perhaps what we do is we help network with hotel motels that are going to invest. We relocate. I mean, there's a lot of options, but there again will be that grace period of time to allow people to transition to find other permanent housing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
So some of the sample areas that we take a look at for code compliance citywide, like I discussed earlier, is minimum exterior property codes. That is your peeling paint, broken windows. A lot of our focus is on junk and trash. I mean, one of the highest enforcements that we have for every NPC. Rental registration and inspection. This is a 3 and 6 year cycle, like we said. Talked about vacant and abandoned monitoring. Something as simple as unsecured buildings. Of that door that's being kicked in a few years ago when we saw metal prices at all-time highs. You'd have one door that got kicked in, and all of a sudden, by the time the property owner found out about it in a week, that house was urban mined. All of the plumbing is gone, all of the electrical is gone. We're talking, we can most of the time get these properties secured within 3 or 4 days, and try to protect these as best we can. Inoperable vehicles, this gets a little interesting because there is some confusion sometimes about code compliance and what you can enforce. So yes, we can enforce inoperable vehicles, but code compliance deals with private property issues. That inoperable vehicle with a flat tire that's in the road, in the public roadway, that's a police department issue. So think about, when you think about code compliance, anything that deals with private property, we can handle. Lacking utilities, front yard parking. Oh, you're okay, you leave it. And sometimes the front yard parking, we have found numerous times that people had no idea. So that's what we do is with any front yard parking complaint that we can go out and we see the vehicle, leave a notice under their windshield and say, this isn't allowed by ordinance. And half the time we get people that call and say, I had no idea. I figured my property, I'd park wherever I wanted. So a lot of that is just communication with community. Letting them know, yes, no, what can I do? How can I help? Just having conversations. We've talked about snow removal, long grass, abandoned vehicles. So just some sample categories on what we address. So we'll turn it over to Marcy for the next.
We've got another question.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What's the history of of these, like the front yard park, right? Like, where does that come from? Well, how is that illegal? Like,
Why is that
where that's, what's the history of that?
So not only does it, have become a blight issue, but people parking in the front yard, on non-improved surfaces. Now we're making mud pits. Now we're making dirt holes. It's just an unattractive.
Tearing the lawn.
Yeah,
The environmental side of it, oil, gas, those types of things that go into the soil, can be factors, not being on an improved surface.
See, my mind is so messed up. I got a couple neighbors that do it sometimes. I'm like, why you park your truck in front of your?
doing it now.
It's parked in the front yard.
Have a handicap tag.
Oh,
Sometimes
right.
it's easier to get
Straight to the
front
door.
than
Yeah.
to go around the house.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we're not, so you can't park in the front yard on an unimproved surface. So if you got crushed concrete, asphalt, cement, any sort of improved surface, there's a percentage, I think it's 40%, that needs to remain a front yard, but you can use the rest for parking.
And there's also the allowability to be able to park if you're unloading something, if you're gonna wash your car, those types of things, you can temporarily place your car in your yard to do those when you're moving, and you back up the moving truck, those types of instances. But it is that, extended, just leave your vehicle up type of parking that's not allowed.
Often evidenced by a big the beginning
Ruts.
of a pit.
Yeah.
Like ruts or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
it's not
you
just-
can't see some of the
cars
tire
there.
because it's all the way stuck down in the mud tracks.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for a little while.
So Jason and I are going to tag team just a little bit.
Right.
So next I want to talk a little bit about the toolbox and how we think of what tools we have available to us as staff who are responsible for enforcing the local ordinances. So the first area is really compelling compliance, just, working with property owners, making sure there's shared understandings educating them, sending out notices, and notice is just a letter, but it is a form letter that we have that says, this is what was observed, and this is per the ordinance, why it's not allowed, and what that language is, so that there's this understanding and educational piece. And then that is the piece that says, you know, please comply with correcting this within whatever the amount of time is based on the situation that's established for that.
Marcy, do those letters include referrals to places that might be able to help them?
They do, they
Okay.
do. We have certainly 311, and then we have a number of other agency items, both in the community and also city services that we offer. Jason has some samples of what we provide in some inserts.
Oh.
And then we also have items that are listed on the notices. And we have a few of those that we'll share a little bit later in the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
The second category is, we refer to it as like preventing neglect, and these would be types of properties where we feel we have to proactively make sure that we are very attentive to monitoring the condition of the property, because oftentimes when properties fall into categories of either being vacant and abandoned, sometimes property owners are, because they're not present on site living there, the conditions can change very quickly. So that's an area of work and focus where we're really intentional about monitoring those monthly and keeping an eye on those conditions and the deterioration. The other area is certainly rental enforcement, ensuring that our rental properties meet minimum housing code standards and that they meet the minimum amenities that all of us have the right to be able to live with. And so it's really important for us to ensure that when we go out to these properties, that they're meeting the needs of the residents who are living there. And then this last step is really the taking action piece. And the reality is we do have, with the variety of enforcements that Jason covered that we're responsible for, sometimes there are areas of enforcement that a property owner does not comply with. And because of the health safety factors involved with that, sometimes what our tool is for the courts to allow for us to take action on an item, or the ordinance to allow us to take action of an item. If the property owner fails to correct the condition, the city can then step in and correct it so that, again, it doesn't continue to perpetuate to become worse, or certainly have greater impact on the surrounding. So those are kind of the three areas of our toolbox that we like to think about the work. There are a number of different inspection types. So we're going to use language as we talk today about what is an enforcement, which are some of the categories that Jason shared with you. And then what is an inspection? So an inspection is the actual work that the code officer does, and enforcement is sort of the category of what they're focused on. So that's kind of the distinction between those two terms. So we, as Jason mentioned, we do proactive enforcement where we're looking at exterior properties across the city, residential, commercial, and in all areas of our geography. We do that daily when we happen to be out. As Jason mentioned, they're out doing a follow-up for a complaint that was issued. As that code officer is driving through that area, they're also looking at other things that they identify. But then very intentionally, every 3 years, we touch every single property in the city. So each year we conduct property survey inspections. A lot of communities will refer to them as windshield surveys or windshield inspections, which is doing that door-to-door assessment of, from the outside, are there any concerns with this property that we want to follow up with? And we do that for both commercial and residential. So to use for an example, this year, we will be in NPC 1 Post Franklin. We'll be up in the historic North Side in the Fremont McKinley area of NPC 4. And then we'll be in rural Southwest, which is NPC 9 for this year. Last year, we did 1 in 10, or not 1, 3 in 10 last year. So then 3 years from now, we'll be back to 1, 4, and 9. So what that does is not only does it make sure that we are equitably sort of covering the geography of our community. But it also helps to ensure, because our geography is so very large, that it helps to ensure that we are sort of getting all the nooks and crannies of all areas of our.
Marcy, when they do these inspections then and they're driving through, I imagine they have a list of things they're looking for?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. So we use, we have a checklist of like minimum standards of what we're looking
Mhm.
for, and we're looking at the yard.
Mhm.
So we're looking for items like junk accumulation, front yard parking, those types of things related to the property. And then we're looking at the structures. So the structures would be things like peeling paint, the condition of the roof, making sure there's handrails on the property, those types of
Okay.
conditions.
Just want to know we got about 9 minutes.
Okay.
oh, yes, that clock is wrong.
Is that-
Thank you for,
That's
good morning.
So we do complaint-driven enforcement, which is certainly a reactive response when someone will contact us
Okay.
requesting us to investigate. We do non-owner occupied, which is the rental piece. We do both the inspections that are required for your rental registration and permitting, but we also handle complaints that come in where tenants will call with concerns that they are experiencing in a unit that they're living in. And then we have previously worked with local service providers who have had service delivery that they would offer to the community. And they would typically check with us to see, hey, we're getting ready to assist this resident, this renter with this service. We just want to make sure that the property that they're in is safe and meets the permitting requirements, and we would do that check. And then lastly, vacant and abandoned structures, we do monthly monitoring of the exterior of them. We have a number of city-owned vacant parcels that we maintain. We have 129 that fall into those categories, most of which fall into residential. And you can see just kind of the difference here from a lot that's city-owned that, you know, is long grass with overgrown sidewalks. And when we have our contract services of mowing and edging, what a difference it can make to the neighborhood for which it sits. This gives you a snapshot of total number of enforcements for 2022. So total number of enforcements, we had 9,474, and these are sort of the category breakdowns of where we had our larger number of focus based on complaint or proactive. Of the 9,474, 5,000 of them last year for NPCs 3 and 10 were those property surveys. So we just want to help understand that, you know, those numbers include those property surveys that are completed. So you can see long grass, junk accumulation, and certainly structural issues of property maintenance in that housing code category are really the larger categories where we spend a good amount of our time. And then this is a snapshot. I know that we're quick on time, but this gives you an idea by geography of how many enforcements that we had in 2022 based on the category. So vacant and abandoned properties, snow enforcements, number of rental registration. It's important to note that the rental registration is a very fluid and can highly fluctuate number because properties are on their own cycle because it's when they register, and some have 3-year cycles and some have 6. So we could have a really big year of renewals because there were a lot of properties that renewed or registered 3 or 6 years ago. And then we could have the next year where there's not very many. So that will ebb and flow a lot. And then tenant complaints.
And for folks that aren't familiar with NPCs, the 1 through 4 are the ones that are closest to downtown. NPC 5 is Urbandale, and 9 through 11 are towards Lakeview.
And 4 meets tonight, if you're interested, at 7 p.m.
Is that ours?
at First Congregational Church, and we are accepting the people from downtown as well until they get their own.
Thank you, Benita.
And then long grass, front yard parking, junk accumulation and abandoned, other examples of those numbers for this last year.
We got those.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's withdraw. We're gonna talk that because we're on a time.
Yes. I don't think the clock is even changing. Go on, Jason.
You know, we've established standard operating procedures, makes it very, very easy to, you go out and you look at the junk and trash, all junk and trash complaints get handled the same. From the date of your notice, you've got 10 days to come into compliance. Inoperable vehicles is also 10 days. There is an option to request a 14-day extension for inoperable vehicles. Notice to correct is that junk and trash in orders to repair, like we said before, is a 60-day order to repair now. instead of the original 30-day. Even within that 60 days, you do have an option to apply to the Board of Appeals and ask for additional time.
Does that require an in-person visit? Folks?
We've done letters, you can have someone come speak on your behalf.
Okay,
You know, we just explored the option, talked about it today about doing maybe it's on Zoom, so people can call in.
okay,
So if they can't make, it, you know, those meetings are the third Wednesday at 1 o'clock, so it's right in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
For someone that's at work. After we send out the notices, we've got non-compliance of the order, so no matter what it is, if it's housing code, if it's junk and trash. You know, we have to issue a civil infraction citation. Issue that citation, it gets sent over to the courts, we have a pretrial hearing. District Court is about 60 days from the time that we send that ticket over to the courts. You have that pretrial hearing with one of our city attorneys. We establish some new compliance dates. You know, oftentimes it's extending the date even more, waiving fines and costs as an incentive to take that money and it's a $230 fine, but you know, with somebody that is expressing that they're having issues with financially, you know, it doesn't make sense to take that money out of the project and put it back into the project. So we established some new dates and times. The code compliance officials go back out and they have the a compliance inspection of what they signed at the courthouse. If it's not done, we write an affidavit, it goes back in front of the judge, we have another hearing. New compliance dates and costs are determined now from the judge through the court process. As you can see, we look back a couple slides before, Marcy was talking about almost 9,500 enforcements. So the junk and trash property surveys, all those out of those 9,500 enforcements, we've resulted with 250 citations. So 3% of the time, people haven't come into compliance. 97% success rate. So out of those 250 citations, only makes sense, like Marcy was talking, you know, number one was our housing code because we did all of those property surveys. So 84 and 90 citations that are issued for junk and trash and housing code issues. We did pass around some community resources, and on the back of every order to repair, it's, you know, there's some different agencies that call that we have lots of information in the office. Chris's team to put out a great new informational piece on minor home repair. Anything that we can do to help you get your project resolved, you know, Chris's minor home repair, the paint program, you know, the fire department was handing out smoke detectors. We've got help with handicap ramps, weatherization, even legal services, helping with some free legal services. On, you know, either for tenants, owners looking for help with evictions, or how do I get somewhere? I just need some advice. The legal services has been a great partner for us. We talk about the paint program. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. This was a program that ran for about 2.5 years. It was stopped during COVID, trying to find some different suppliers to help with this program again. This is an exceptional program. In the very first year that we did it in 2017, we did 103 projects. So that is someone that's making an application to the city, coming to us and say, I want to paint my house, I just can't afford it. So there were no strings attached. It's not about how much money you made. It's not about if your taxes or if you have homeowners insurance. When you sign on the dotted line, it was, I will use this product within 2 months. Or at
What did
least
they get?
it
What was the
cost-
benefit?
Yeah, so they had 10 gallons of paint. You had the tools to do it. You had scrapers, rollers, brushes. You had everything that you needed to complete the job. You know, for example, just the before and after, but for 103 residents that very first year that paid nothing out of pocket, that just wanted to paint their house. So I'm going to do my best, but we're going to spend a lot of focus on trying to find a new supplier here in town. It likely will be a little bit more expensive, but even if we can do 30 projects, we have 30 houses that residents, or, you know, I just need to paint the garage, or just want to paint the front stairs. Maybe it's only a gallon and a brush, but we know that, you know, going out to Lowe's at $45, $50 a gallon, you know, it's tough to make it. So that packet of information, I'm trying to hurry.
Yeah, we're at 5 right now. I know we're a little after, but
We're
we're
almost done.
staying, yep.
I think 2 slides. So all of those information materials are available in the office, but I did pass them around. Making the structured cards, little cards that we made for a realtors association that we did a couple of years ago. Sample property transfer affidavits, rental properties, kind of what we're looking for when we go out and do inspections. And I mean, most importantly, when you get a notice and you don't understand or you need some help, give us a call, send us an email. I mean, our emails are on there, our phone numbers. We will do anything possible that we can to help, you know, if that's a time extension, if that's, you know, looking to, hey, have you tried Habitat? Have you tried, you know, different agencies? Anything that we can do to gain success. I believe this is the last slide. So we've got, again, all the code officials, myself, our emails, our phone number, you know, please reach out if you have any questions, you know, and I tell residents this all the time is, well, I didn't know. I said, well, then call and ask, you know, I mean, we can't help if we don't know that you need help.
Can I also throw out there, a conversation I believe you and I had before, there is a sphere of code compliance in certain communities in our city, and so maybe these flyers need to be at every church in our neighborhoods and places that people may go who may have those issues. I'm right there, because there is a definite fear of code compliance.
So,
And some misunderstandings, and if you're saying now that, hey, we want to help you instead of just fine you, that needs to be articulated into the communities, because you have people that are gonna get those notices and ignore them because they're scared to call you, because that means I just called code compliance,
Yep.
said, yeah, no,
I'm going to
not
court.
code, but.
Mhm.
Right.
but again, we want to be partners. We don't
Right.
want to be the enforcing agency. And
Right.
I mean, 10,000 times we had to write 250 citations. It does happen.
Right.
Yeah,
But, you know, we will do, if it's an extension of time, or I don't know where to go, or, you know. All of our code officials attend their NPC meetings.
Okay.
They take these materials
Every
with
single
them.
month.
Yeah, every single month. They take these materials or a new material or something else that we get all the time. I mean, that's a great place to get a group together that has, I mean, lots of impact with the neighborhood. You know, Pastor, I don't know how many times we said, here's some, you know, you talk to a bunch of people and say, hey, the city's doing this, or minor home repair can help you with this, or code's gonna be focusing on our neighborhood, you know, for property surveys next year. So let's anticipate that and get things going.
so I think there's a few things we can do as a board, right? Thank you very much to you and Marcy for coming, and thank you for Chris for coordinating. I think that we can ourselves in our own spheres of influence, talk to people about how this department wants to partner with you. Like, we can help reduce some of that fear, right? I think what I hear is much less about a punitive approach and much more of a supportive one. And so we can help really kind of promote that messaging out there. And also encourage people to participate in their NPCs, because that is the place they're going to be able to interact, so that we can reduce some of that fear. So the infrastructure is there. Are there ways for us to actually support that? I imagine that some folks are going to have questions after this as you think about it. So I welcome us to just reconnect if there are questions that come up from the board as a result of this, but
I'm a flood.
Before.
there you go.
Thank you both. I'm sorry, I have to jump off. Thank you both so much for this presentation and that additional context. This is Kiona. I have another commitment, so I have to jump off, but thank you.
Fiona. And I know that there's a lot more we could say. I just want to make sure that within the time we have, we are asking for any public comment. So is there any
No
public
public
comment?
has attended, so.
Okay, we're good there. So we've checked that off the box.
I
So
have
yes.
one super fast question. If somebody does call and wage a complaint, can it be anonymous?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Chris?
maybe we can be proactive and put those in the water bills and saying, hey, did you know?
Yes, because I've never seen any of
ABC.
those documents.
Yeah, I'm trying to steal them.
You
Need
can,
a couple of
Jason,
them.
if you'd like to provide me with, he can take those copies. If you want to provide me other copies,
You
and
can
I'll
take
forward it
copies of
to.
everything.
to
everything
Kathy.
we have.
Okay.
You get me a copy.
Oh, yeah.
and We'll get everybody.
Yep.
copies.
Yep, perfect.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Of course.
Can we have a follow-up, maybe some
Yes.
portion of the following meeting, so that folks that have things.
That's a
they're
good
carrying
idea.
Out of this
That's
meeting,
great.
have a place in our meeting.
Yep.
You did a good job. This is way more interesting than I thought.
Yeah, so we will, so March is.
Focus, why it's okay.
Chris said that you guys can stay till 7:30.
So March's agenda will include follow-up on this so that we can actually have a conversation. So thank you for that recommendation, Chris. We'll make sure we take that. Our next meeting is actually on March 15th, a month from today. I think we've already got our agenda developed. I appreciate everybody's time. Is there any final board comments that anybody has to make?
Please ignore my truck parked in my front yard.
I just want to say it's been an interesting conversation.
would
I got
like
so
to
many,
go here.
I'm like cotton. I got so many
Okay.
questions right now, so I'll just wait till next month, man. It's like so many
Derek?
questions I have.
Thank you, Derek. Yes, if all of us do the same, like take notes for what your questions are so that you don't forget them between now and then. And we'll address those as our follow-up to this conversation. So again, thank you all for your time. We're doing a lot of great work. I really appreciate your dedication and commitment. And we'll see y'all in a month. And hopefully those who attended virtually, at some point, it'd be great to be out, to be too big for this room, but we understand and we're really grateful for the city for making this hybrid approach possible. So thank you all. And I will.
Thank you.
I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
All right.